You hear the name Stephen Hawking, and an image probably pops into your head right away. A man in a wheelchair who somehow, against all odds, gave the universe a voice. But how did he become this global symbol of pure genius and unstoppable will? Well, today we're going to dive deep into the mind that literally reshaped our cosmos.
Wow, okay, right out of the gate, that tells you everything, doesn't it? No frills, no sentimentality. For Hawking, the brain was hardware. The afterlife, just a fairy story. That unflinching, direct, almost cold logic, that's the key to understanding everything that came next.
So let's start there, with that image we all know. How did one man become seen by the entire world as the mind of the universe? This is the picture, right? It's so powerful because of the incredible contrast. You've got a body that's completely confined, trapped, but a mind that was totally free. A mind that could wander to the edge of a black hole or the very beginning of time. He was this walking, talking paradox, and honestly, the world just couldn't get enough of it. But before the icon, there was the young man. And it was the collision of his brilliant, almost rebellious mind with an absolutely devastating diagnosis that really set the stage for everything he would become. So you might picture this quiet, bookish kid, right? Nope, not even close. Sure, his friends nicknamed him Einstein, but he said he found the work at Oxford ridiculously easy. He was tinkering, building computers out of old clock parts. And get this, he was a cox for the rowing team, and he actively cultivated a daredevil image. This was not a quiet mind, this was a restless mind, just itching for a real challenge. I mean, can you imagine the sheer confidence? He's in his final exams, on the borderline of getting the top grade, and he basically tells the examiners, look, give me a first, because I'm going to Cambridge. If not, I'm stuck here with you. And it worked. They knew right then and there they were dealing with someone on a totally different level. And then, at just 21 years old, the floor drops out. He's diagnosed with motor neuron disease. The doctors give him 2 years to live. 2. He lived for another 55. That gap, that massive 53-year gap between the prognosis and the reality, that's not just a statistic. That's the entire story. And here's the craziest part. In a strange, almost unbelievable twist, that death sentence didn't end his work. It lit a fire under it. He said knowing he was going to die early is what finally made him realize life was worth living. And as his body started to fail him, his mind had to adapt. It had to learn to see the universe, to see these incredibly complex equations in a way no one ever had before, entirely inside his own head. And this totally new way of thinking, it led him straight to one of the biggest, baddest, most mysterious objects in the entire cosmos, the black hole. This was the big question. And for decades, the answer from pretty much every physicist was a definite yes. A black hole was a cosmic roach motel. Everything checks in, nothing checks out. Not even light. End of story. But Hawking came along and said, hold on a second, what if that's wrong? The old view is simple. They're cosmic vacuum cleaners that only ever get bigger. Hawking's idea was revolutionary. He said, what if they're not entirely black? What if they can leak a tiny bit of radiation? And if they can leak, they can shrink. And if they can shrink, then over an unimaginable amount of time, they can disappear completely. They named it Hawking radiation. And at first, people were really skeptical. I mean, this was a wild idea that seemed to fly in the face of everything they thought they knew. It was a prediction that came not from a lab, but from that unique, incredible picture of the universe inside his mind. And here's why it was such a massive deal. This wasn't just some weird fact about black holes. For the first time, someone had built a bridge between the two great pillars of physics: Einstein's theory of general relativity, the world of the very big, and quantum mechanics, the bizarre world of the very small. Connecting those two is the holy grail of physics, and Hawking had just found a major clue. So this breakthrough made him a superstar in the world of physics. But what he did next was going to make him a superstar to, well, everybody. So why would a theoretical physicist write a book for the rest of us? Well, the reasons were actually incredibly down to earth. The cost of his 24/7 care was astronomical. He needed to pay the bills, and he wanted to make sure his kids were taken care of. But it was more than that. He really, truly wanted to share the wonder he felt about the universe with everyone, not just a handful of other scientists. And the results of that decision? Well, it's this number, 237. That is the record-breaking number of weeks his book, A Brief History of Time, spent on the bestseller list. Let that sink in.
A book about cosmology and theoretical physics became a global phenomenon.
That book changed everything. He went from being Professor Hawking, a respected academic, to being the master of the universe on the cover of magazines. He wasn't just a scientist anymore. He was a cultural icon, the guy who brought black holes into our living rooms.
And in his later years, he used that enormous global platform not just to explain the universe, but to start issuing some pretty serious warnings about our future in it.
He started sounding the alarm, and the dangers he was pointing to weren't some far-off science fiction fantasy. He was talking about sudden nuclear war, a genetically engineered virus, artificial intelligence running wild. He saw these things as very real, very possible threats.
So what was his solution? How do we hedge our bets against all these risks? His answer was pure Hawking, logical, stark, and kind of terrifying. We have to leave. He said staying on one planet was like putting all our eggs in one basket. For him, getting into space wasn't just an adventure, it was an insurance policy for the entire human race. But even with all these heavy warnings about the future, you gotta remember, he never lost that playful, witty side. This is one of my favorite stories about him, hands down. To test if time travel to the past was possible, he threw a party, champagne, snacks, the whole deal. But he only sent out the invitations after the party was over. The result? Nobody showed up. A perfect, simple, and very funny experiment.
And in the end, that's really his legacy, isn't it? Hawking proved that a single human mind, one person, could escape the most profound physical limitations imaginable to go and explore the cosmos. And the question he kind of leaves behind for the rest of us is, can we do the same? Can we, as a species, find a way for our minds to escape our own limitations and secure that future out among the stars he so desperately wanted us to reach?